The choice that made me a billionaire. Introduction, let me start with something that might make you a little uncomfortable. Most people are just surviving, not really living, and they call that success. Yeah, I know it sounds harsh, but just look around. Smart, talented people with incredible potential, stuck in a safe, dull routine, quietly frustrated. And why? Because when life asked for a decision, they chose comfort, the predictable career, the job that looked good on paper. Now listen carefully. I didn't become a billionaire because I was the smartest guy in the room. I became a billionaire because I made a choice no one else around me had the guts to make. I walked away from a stable job in New York for a garage full of boxes, an old computer, and a crazy idea. I chose to follow my purpose, even when it looked like insanity. And the craziest part? Most people would have done the opposite and called it common sense. There are still people who believe success is just luck. That wealth is reserved for a chosen few. That working too hard means you're just chasing a fantasy. But let me tell you a secret. The real miracle happens when you align passion, vision, and action and start making choices that might seem wrong to the average person, but feel absolutely right to your soul. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. The behind the scenes of my most unlikely decision. The choice that made no sense at the time, but changed everything. And by the end of this video, I promise, you'll never look at your own life the same way again. When I said, at 26 years old, that I want to build an online bookstore, and that one day I'd be the richest man in the world, people laughed. And honestly, they had a point. Back then, no one was talking about Amazon, digital entrepreneurship, or exponential scalability. The internet still felt like a mystery to most people. But I believed, not because it made sense by traditional standards, but because the vision was crystal clear inside me. I could see what others hadn't yet imagined, and that very often is the first step towards something huge. The truth is, logic is limited by the present. Vision isn't. Logic says, there's not enough market for this. Vision says, not yet. Logic asks, what if it fails? Vision responds, but what if it works? That mindset was what pushed me to bet on Amazon, even when it all felt strange, risky, and way ahead of its time. Innovation never comes from the obvious. It grows out of what seems crazy until it becomes a new normal. And I knew if I didn't do it, someone else would, and I'd regret it for the rest of my life. You need to develop what I call a sense for the future. It's when you feel something's about to change, even if there's no hard proof yet. Just look around. Artificial intelligence, clean energy, space exploration, digital health, blockchain. Today's biggest opportunities still seem too abstract for most people. But if you can look at where the world is going, not just where it is, you're already ahead. And being ahead, my friend, often means being alone. Now, don't get me wrong. Vision is not daydreaming. Vision takes groundwork, study, context. I read everything I could about the internet. I studied consumer behavior. I broke down logistics models. It was hard work, but it had purpose. If you have a vision today, turn it into a plan. Test it, validate it, fail fast. Use tools like books, like Shoe Dog, The Story of Nike, The Everything Store, or 0 to 1. Learn from the people who've already walked the path. Because vision without execution is just an illusion. And maybe, just maybe right now, you're holding on to an idea. Something everyone else thinks is silly, but it keeps glowing in the back of your mind. Let me tell you this. Listen to it. Respect it. It might just be the seed of your legacy. But to make it grow, you'll need more than belief. You'll need real passion. The kind that keeps burning even when no one's clapping. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about next. If I had followed the trends of the time, I'd have been selling CDROMS or opening an electronics store. That's what was booming in the 90s. But you know what I realized? Trends come and go. Real passion doesn't. Amazon was born from my passion for books, for knowledge, for building something that would last. It wasn't the flashiest path, or the most sexy one in the eyes of the market, but it was real, and that's what matters. especially when the nights are long and the results haven't shown up yet. A lot of people ask me, Jeff, what's the best industry to start a business in today? And I always respond with another question. What do you love so much you do it for free? Because if your only motivation is money, you'll quit the moment things get tough. But if it's passion, you learn how to dance with the problems. You endure the discomfort that leads to growth. You push through the criticism. You reinvent yourself when needed. Passion is what keeps you standing when everything seems to fall apart. And believe me, it will feel like that more than once. It's easy to get caught up in the glow of fleeting opportunities, to jump into whatever everyone else is doing, to start yet another copycat business. But legacy isn't built by following what's hot right now. It's built by creating something that will still matter 10, 20 years from now. And to do that, you need to be connected to something that goes beyond metrics and likes. Passion is when you do it because you believe in it, not because the algorithm told you to. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you love cooking, but you think there's no money in that. So you ignore that passion and start selling gadgets in a dropshipping store, products you don't even use. Now you're building based on a trend, and that's going to cost you in frustration later. But what if you took that love for food and turned it into content, a channel, a brand, real experiences? It's not about what's trending. It's about what you can sustain for decades, even when no one else believes in it. Passion is the silent fuel behind every great achievement. It's what got me started small, improvising, packing books in a garage. And it's what kept me going when Amazon wasn't making money, when people doubted me, when the market shook. But here's the thing. Passion alone isn't enough. You have to turn it into action, into conscious choices. And that brings us to something even deeper. What will you choose to do with the gifts you've been given? Let me tell you something most people don't say out loud. You can't take pride in your gifts. They weren't achievements. They were presents. I'm grateful I was born with a logical mind, that I think analytically. But that alone was never going to take me anywhere. In the end, what really matters are the choices you make. Because talent, that's common. But turning talent into impact, that's rare. And that kind of rarity doesn't come from genetics. It comes from a life decision. You know what I'm truly proud of in my journey with Amazon? It wasn't being good at math. It was choosing to move forward when everything around me told me to turn back. It was sticking with it when the reports were negative and investors were losing faith. It's easy to hide behind things like, oh, I'm just not cut out for that. Or, he's just gifted. The hard and powerful truth is, everyone has gifts, but only a few choose to refine them. And that refinement, it's daily, it's uncomfortable, and often it's lonely. Let me be real with you. If you're good with words, right? If you have the gift of listening, help people. If you understand numbers, build solutions. But most of all, choose to do it with discipline and intention. The world is full of talented people who never did anything with what they had. Because talent without action is like an engine that's never turned on. It doesn't take you anywhere. A growth mindset begins when you stop waiting for recognition and start acting like a builder, even when no one's clapping. Here's a practical piece of advice. Make a list of your gifts, then ask yourself, what am I doing with these? If the answer is nothing, change that today. If it's a little, turn it up. If it's a lot, then go further. Inspire others. Teach, create, share. Don't keep to yourself what might spark something powerful in someone else. The gifts you don't use, they fade. But the ones you share, they multiply. That's what I believe in. And that's why I keep coming back to the power of choices. Because in the end, what will really matter isn't whether you were born with charisma, intelligence, or creativity, but what you did with it. It's the journey you chose to live. And now comes your next big choice. Do you want an easy life or a life with purpose? Comfort or adventure? At some point in your life, and trust me, it will happen, you'll come face to face with a quiet crossroads. On one side, the path of comfort, a peaceful, predictable life with no real risks. On the other, the path of service and adventure, a road where you might stumble, fall, get frustrated, but also one where you can build something bigger than yourself. That's the decision I had to make when I left my stable job to build Amazon. I could have kept earning well, living a comfortable life, or I could choose something that might just inspire the world. And let me tell you, comfort is an elegant trap. It's wrapped in year-end bonuses, weekends that all look the same, and a safe routine that doesn't bother you, but also never transforms you. But here's the truth. No one writes a book about the person who played it safe. The ones who change the world, the ones who leave a legacy, are the ones who choose to live with purpose, to serve, to build, even if it means walking around with your head full of ideas and your pockets empty at least for a while, because the adventure of serving others will transform your own life. This choice isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. When you choose to serve, you start solving real problems. You stop chasing the next raise and start chasing the next impact. You stop being driven by status and start being guided by inspiration. And look, serving doesn't mean being submissive. It means being useful. It means creating, leading, lifting up businesses, ideas, communities, and solutions. It's understanding that your success is directly tied to the success of the people you help. Now, maybe you're thinking, but Jeff, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? What if the discomfort you've been avoiding is exactly what will shape you into who you're meant to become? The best stories I've ever heard came from people who gave up stability to live with more authenticity, more soul. They chose uncertainty with passion over safety without spark. And you know what? They never regretted it. Because when you choose service and adventure, you're choosing growth. And that decision, which seems like a one-time moment, is actually made every single day. In the small actions, in the big decisions, in how you spend your time. So here's a question to challenge you. If you keep living the way you are today, what story will you tell when you're 80? The story of comfort that kept you stuck, or the story of adventure that changed you? And to answer that, you'll need to face a new set of questions. Questions that changed my life, and just might change yours too. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to take it seriously. Because these questions change the course of my life. Are you living as someone original, or just repeating what you were taught? Look, the world is full of ready-made formulas, safe paths, and people telling you what you should be doing. But here's the truth. What sets you apart from the average is your ability to think for yourself, to build instead of criticize, to create something new, even if no one believes in it at first. That's how it was for me. That's how it was for Amazon. So ask yourself, have you been a builder or a cynic? It's easy to sit back and point out flaws in the world, in other people's ideas, in attempts that haven't worked yet. What's hard is to stand up, get your hands dirty, and have the humility to fail while trying. But let me tell you, that's where growth lives. A growth mindset begins the moment you stop protecting yourself from pain and start finding meaning in discomfort. Cynics live in the comfort zone. Builders live on the battlefield. And it's on that battlefield that your real potential is forged. Here's another one. Have you been playing it safe or letting yourself take a few risks? Because listen, no one who built something extraordinary did without going through a good amount of fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite it. Yes, I was afraid. I had doubts. But I kept going. With every choice, every risk, I laid one more brick in the foundation of Amazon. And every time you make a hard decision, you're building your own foundation, too. A solid one, based on conviction, not on someone else's opinion. Do you give up when things get tough? Or do you keep going anyway? Persistence isn't glamorous. You won't get applause for it in the beginning. But it's the one thing that separates dreamers from doers. Most people quit way too soon. You know that phrase, it just wasn't meant to be? I never believed that. If you have passion, vision, and the willingness to work hard, then yes, it is meant to be. You just need to keep going, and going, and going, until the world finally sees what you already knew all along. So now I'll ask you again, what story do you want to write? The one about the guy who followed the script? Or the one about someone who had the courage to be original, to serve, to build? Because in the end, the questions you ask yourself today will shape the life you'll have tomorrow. And if you really want to build something that lasts, you can't just look out for yourself. You've got to learn how to create something. That helps others grow too. You want to know when I realized I was truly building something great with Amazon? It was the moment we stopped just selling products and started empowering people. Creators, sellers, entrepreneurs, authors, small brands that once had no voice. That's when I understood real impact doesn't just come from what you achieve for yourself. It comes from what you create so others can grow too. That's more than innovation. That's legacy. Every time you build a tool that helps someone else flourish, you're creating a virtuous cycle. That's what we did with the Amazon Marketplace. But this goes far beyond business. If you have knowledge, share it. If you have a platform, make space. If you have influence, use it to open doors. When you empower someone, you don't lose power. You multiply it. That's service and adventure combined in their purest form. And people who live like that don't just succeed, they change lives. Yes, life gives you gifts, but also the responsibility to turn them into real choices. And the final stage of the journey is this: using everything you've been given to help others shine too. And listen, it doesn't have to be complex. Sometimes empowering someone means truly listening, pointing them in the right direction, mentoring a young talent, creating a product that solves a real problem. And if you haven't started yet, ask yourself, who could be growing right now if I chose to take action? Creativity is more powerful when it spreads. That's why I say, don't keep to yourself what could open a door for someone else. Sharing is a strategic act. It's how you multiply impact. And the more you do that, the more you grow too, in awareness, in influence, in vision. A scarcity mindset makes you hide. A growth mindset makes you share. Choose the right side. Build platforms, not just to climb, but so others can climb with you. And now comes the final question, the one you might already be asking yourself. How did it all begin? How do you go from a stable job to becoming a billionaire packing books in a garage? How do you turn one small act of courage into a digital revolution? It all started with a simple choice. And now, finally, I'm going to tell you what it was. By now, you already know. What separates an ordinary life from an extraordinary one isn't a degree, a perfect network, or a stroke of luck. It's a choice. A single decision made with courage, made with conviction, that can completely rewrite your future. So here's the question. What choice are you going to make from this moment on? Will you keep hiding behind? It's not the right time. Keep sweeping your gifts under the rug, hoping someone will discover you? Or will you get out of your chair and start building, even without certainty, even with fear? Even if you have to start alone, are you going to keep playing it safe? Or will you finally let yourself live with purpose, serve others, innovate, and inspire? Remember what I said at the beginning. I didn't become a billionaire by accident. I became a billionaire because I chose to live guided by passion, not by other people's approval. And you? Are you going to wait until you're 80 to ask yourself, what if I had tried? Or are you going to start right now, building the life you already know you're capable of living? So here's the challenge. Drop a comment below and tell us, what decision are you ready to make today? Declare it, commit to it, inspire others. That's your first small step of many. And if this video sparks something inside you, like, comment, hit the bell, and subscribe. Because what we've started here is just the beginning.